Right, so I think it's time to talk about Malaysia for 40-year-olds and maybe 40-year-olds with families. So is it better than the UK? Because that's the trade-off I've made. So let's step through this. Is Malaysia better than the UK? Well, for me, I'll give you the answer right now, yes. And I'll tell you why. So one, the weather. The weather is gorgeous here. It is somewhere between 26 and 30 something every day. That to me, I'm quite reliant on good weather for my well-being. So that temperature works for me. The sun works for me. But, there's a rainy season, monsoon season, but because it's so warm, it's so different from a UK rain setup where you're cold. So weather-wise, I give Malaysia a big thumbs up. Weather, I thought of something else with the weather. I can't remember. Okay, food, probably number 2 for most people. Food here is amazing. You've got not only the Malaysian dishes, nasi lemak and all of those, you've got all the other cuisines from around. So in most places, not only is there the Malaysian food, there's Japanese, there's Taiwan, there's Vietnamese, there's sushi, there's all on offer, all available. So you never get bored. Whereas in the UK, it's kind of just that UK stodge. Maybe not in London, but outside London, I really think you're quite limited. So and the food here suits me. So lots of rice, lots of flavour, lots of spices, lots of not curry, but they have this amazing like coconut, like a rendang flavour, which I really enjoy. Right. So yeah, I love the food, I love the weather. I guess next would be opportunity. Is there opportunity? Well, yeah, definitely. I think there is. I think if you can be relocated here with your company, I'd definitely take it up. Or even just in Asia, because they all share that weather element. They all share excellent food. So, and just uniquely about Malaysia is it does have a real mix, and I've spoken of it in many of the videos. Just the cultural mix, something that I'm not overly used to being from the UK, but I really appreciate it here. One thing just to bear in mind, if you're coming from England and you're used to a quite heavy drinking culture, I'm sure there is a heavy drinking culture here, maybe behind the scenes, but there's no people hanging out of pubs. There's no kind of like, just people hanging around with pints. There is beer, there is alcohol available. I just wouldn't say it's a drinking culture like the UK that heavily relies on that. The other bit I notice here, so that drinking bit suits me because I don't really drink. From time to time I might have like a gin and tonic, but I'm not a heavy drinker at all. The other bit is that we like, being parents to three kids here, is because of that non-drinking culture, the kids aren't all gasping to try their first like beer. It's just not cultural. So we feel the kids are being exposed to maybe better weaknesses, like maybe more academic pursuits than hanging out on a street corner with a can of Diamond White. And along with that lack of drinking culture is a lack of drug culture, which again we feel is really evident in schools in the UK. There's a lot of drug use. Again, it's not a scene I'm into, so I'm normally quite oblivious to it all, but we're aware with friends back in the UK that their kids are being exposed to high level of drugs, alcohol. And then the last point is sexualization. We feel in the UK, that whole page 3 element of everything's quite sexualized. All these influencers with their pouty lips and fake. It's quite a sexualized culture. Whereas here, with the heavy influence of prayer and covering up, it's not a highly sexualized country on the outside. I'm just getting to the peak. I can just see some people, so I don't want to disturb them too much with me talking. So I'll just be respectful. Okay, so that's food, weather, non-alcoholic and sexualized culture that I like, the non-sexualized, non-alcoholic culture. Oh yeah, opportunities. Yes, corporate opportunities. I even think there's opportunities if you're young to come here and set up a business. I think you're far more likely to succeed than in the UK. Because, big old butterfly. Because here it's clearly open for business, because you can, there's street vendors, there's Grab people, there's the Grab drivers, there's a whole economy of, I don't want to call it a cash economy because it's not, it's, you know, electronic payments, but you can actually get work if you want it on your own self-employed work. So being a Grab driver, being a Food Panda delivery person, you just get your car, you get your ticket, and off you go. You can sell your food on the side. There's definitely opportunity here for those willing to work, and it's that culture that we love. That in the UK, you'll just go and get your handouts and you'll sit at home, and I think it breeds the wrong type of internal thought that you're just entitled to something, entitled to a handout. So we think there's definitely a way to get a business here. Maybe I'm really intrigued by like a Subway franchise. One, I love Subway, and two, there's a few franchises, but there's definitely room for more. So if you had the funds or the willingness to incorporate here a company, you can then live here, that would be your entry to visa, or you could buy the premium visa package, which will enable you to incorporate here and set up your own company, buy property and all the rest of it. So it's definitely open, and there's definitely ways to live here and move here. Just touching on the visas, if you're not aware, there's an MM2H visa where you can come, but you can't work. You can't take a Malaysian's job on the MM2H visa program. The premium visa program costs a lot more, but you can work here, you can incorporate, you can employ people who give them jobs. There's then a couple of other visas, like if your kids are in school, you can get a guardian visa because you need to be near them for the education. Yeah, and then obviously just the tourist visa, but that's only 90 days. Anyway, so back to why this place is better than the UK, for me at least. So that opportunity, I would think my prospects of work are better here than in the UK. We left the UK because every which way we turned, we got told no. We wanted to expand our business, no. We wanted to get planning permission on some land, no. We tried to, we bought a building site in a village and wanted to put in planning for building properties, no. And then the whole time along the way, you're taxed at the highest rate is around 60%. Can you believe that? If you earn £1, you've got to give more than half to the government. I just can't believe they spend that money effectively, or they need that much money. They need more than half my income. I mean, I just cannot, I cannot work with that. And with their red tape and regulation, they are in the newspapers, they make statements how they're proud that they caught someone operating without a license, like a shop that had lapsed a license. They're proud to have fined them and closed them. I mean, that's really quite nasty. Why not just say, hey, you don't have a license, can you please, you know, renew your license, because everyone has a license and you need to get it. You know, why not operate that way? Why not help the business with its license, with its whatever else you want it to have? They just don't operate that way. It is a real vindictive culture, and we saw it during COVID. There was a real transition where neighbours were reporting on neighbours for whatever, and we had it even next to us. One neighbour away from us, he reported his neighbour because a car rolled in during COVID. I mean, seriously, the police came and did a raid. Yet another friend of ours, his shop was broken into and all the cash taken. The police didn't even come to look. He even knew the person, or he thought he could identify the person that robbed him. The police weren't interested to say, oh no, we're not coming, we're not interested. So there's a real dysfunction in the UK, and that's what bothers me the most. I think if you're in a big company, say you work, I don't know, one of the big tech companies or pharmaceuticals, and you've got a huge pension and you've got a huge salary, then I think your life is okay in the UK because you just function within that corporate umbrella. But if you're self-employed, if you're it's basically if you're self-employed or a small business owner, the government have just made it so difficult, and the government and the council have made it almost impossible for you to operate. You can't expand, you can't get planning. Anything you do, and even if you do, it takes months and years to make progress. And then even when you start, say, doing a building site, all you get is complaints from neighbours because you're building, because you've got a lorry in front. They've made it a real blame culture, not in my backyard culture. It's really horrific. And being a small business owner, having done a few things up to here, it just takes away the possibilities. A friend of ours, his son's graduated from King's College, so a real top 3 university, maybe top 5 university, and he's applying for graduate positions. He can't get one. And maybe now your first degree, your Bachelor of Science isn't enough. Maybe you need a master's, maybe you need a PhD, but you can't even get an interview. And surely there's companies in the UK taking on grads, but what the answer is, there's not. They're not taking on grads. You know, back in the day when I graduated, each company took on sort of 100 grads, and they, you know, over the years filter them down, but they're not even doing that now. So I feel like the UK is massively broken in a horrific way, and we had the opportunity to leave, to start the process. We would have started the process 2 years ago. It took us 18 months to kind of get everything together. We had to close everything, we had to sell everything, we had to prepare our exit, all this kind of stuff. So it does take time to leave. If you're not, maybe if you're single and you can just pack up a bag and leave, fine. But if we were a whole family operation in school, with all our commitments, with all our kind of ownership of various things, that took a while for us to wrap up, but we had the opportunity to, and we just had to take it, not just for our sake, but we also feel for our children's sake, that to give them a chance in the future, we had to leave the country. Maybe they'll go back there for their university, but we don't want them to feel like they have to stay after that, because we just feel like right now there is no opportunity in the UK. Whether we're right or not, I don't know. But it's also no big deal. People make out like it's a really big deal moving. We always feel like if it doesn't work out, we can go back. And I don't mean work out as in like how it would never be a failure. I just want to show you Malati Hill. So that's where we've just been. We love Malati Hill. It's quite cute. And I think in the evenings there's stuff going on here. I can see someone's feet. All right. So yeah, let's say we just we assume that here we'll have this certain lifestyle, and let's say it doesn't, and we do want to go back for whatever reason. We'll always be able to. Now that we've uprooted once, we feel like it's much easier now to move because we've uprooted that first time, which I had never done. My missus the other day met a guy who works for one of the big accounting firms. He's in audit or something. He was telling her how he's now in Jakarta. He was in Japan. Prior to that, he was in Dubai. Prior to that, he was somewhere else. So he's never had roots. He's always been mobile, and he has a daughter. She's come over for the tennis camp at the school. There's so much noise in the jungle from the monkeys. So opportunity, food, weather, culture, living standards. So massive uplift here for us. The house we're in is much bigger and much more comfortable than our UK house. Money goes a lot further. We also here, it's very common to have a housemaid. So we have a lady who keeps the house spick and span, tidies it, does the washing. She cooks sometimes if we ask her to. She comes in a few days a week. It's very common, and our landlord kind of said, you know, you should have our housemaid. He kind of didn't insist, but definitely wanted us to have that as someone to keep the house, I guess how he liked it. So that's been great, and really taken out a lot of, because historically we would have the washing machine on constantly. We would forever be tidying up rooms, mopping and vacuuming, and all that's been taken away. And it's relatively, I don't want to say cheap, because I don't want to describe the work she does as cheap, but she's happy, we're happy, and giving someone a job, which is great for us. Mixing in with people, friends. For a lot of people it's a big deal. My missus has made a lot of friends at the school, other parents. If we were near Mount Kiara, I think, where the expats are. There'd probably be a lot more like us. I'm more than happy to be friends with locals. So, for example, our neighbour is Malaysian, and I really enjoy spending time with him and his family. We now play golf almost once a week. So I actually prefer to kind of mix in if they're welcoming locals, as opposed to just seeking out expats as if I should only be friends with expats. So, but anyway, I'm happy with that. Internet communications, a lot of people are always questioning on nomad communities, what's the internet like? The internet's fine. You know, do you remember back in the day when if you had 1 meg, you were like really happy? You know, internet here is 50, 200, 400 meg, like up, down. So it's more than enough. My son moans about it, but I think it's more his computer than it is the internet. So yeah, that's been fine. What other things to tell you? Oh, getting stuff. We've had a few people comment on, oh, I can get everything I used to get. Yeah, if you buy imported goods, they are more expensive. If you buy the local brand, they are much cheaper. But I haven't yet found something that I couldn't buy, or at least order either online or to come in. So I bought something on Amazon.com and they delivered to Malaysia, so no problem. I bought stuff on eBay that's been delivered internationally. I've then just bought from the e-commerce sites here. So it's mainly Shopee, Temu, Lazada or Lazada, Lazada. Those 3 have been my main portals for buying online. Everything seems to be there. The one weird thing is I really like my Oral-B toothbrush, electronic toothbrush. They don't seem to have in the shops a lot of electronic toothbrush stuff. Everyone has amazing teeth, and they all, I assume, have regular toothbrushes, but I'm kind of obsessed with my electric toothbrush and the various heads and so on. So I haven't yet found a way to buy that, but when I need to, I'm sure I'll be able to get that imported in. What else? We run the aircon for the heat inside the house. So in the office, I have aircon units, and yeah, I'll run them. There's a trick apparently. If you put it on 24 and on dry mode, that's the equivalent of cool mode at 20. So most people say that 20 is room temp. So rather than run it at 20 on cool, you run it on dry at 24, and apparently that's equivalent, but much more energy efficient. So that's my hack for you on running the aircon. Other bits about the UK. The road network was horrific when I left. The potholes, whenever they're doing any road works, they take not months, not weeks, they take years. And the congestion around those road networks are horrific. And even now I remember back, trying to get around. The UK culture was getting more and more aggressive. Apart from neighbour reporting neighbour, there was a very aggressive cultural undertone going on. A lot of grumpy people, a lot of miserable people, a lot of moaning. That I don't feel here. Here I feel the culture, they're very peaceful. I think it might be the weather, because they're much more chilled. Like I've described, when you drive here, there's a lack of honking and aggression when you cut people up. But that's really quite nice that people are just a bit more chilled out. And I think it's because they just have, no one here is down and out. If you're struggling here, you can sell coconuts on the roadside. If you're struggling here, you can set up a street cafe. If you're struggling here, you can sell sliced pineapple at the traffic lights. I don't feel like people here have reek of desperation. Whereas in the UK, I feel like people are so desperately struggling that it comes out in aggressive, like almost self-defense. And it's hard to explain unless you've been to the UK, but that's how I felt when we were leaving, how the undertone of the culture was heading. So I think that's the most important parts covered of is Malaysia better than the UK for a 40-year-old with a family? And for me, the answer is a yes across the board. I can't think of anything in the UK that is better than here. The only thing the UK doesn't have that I would swap is the stray dogs. And if they could pick up a little bit more litter here, have some bins, those 2 things. And yeah, that would be my only 2 requests. Other than that, go Malaysia. That's it.